Hello, 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 hello. This is Sherry Fatu, and I'm the owner and CEO of Heavenly Habits. Here with you with another video. Why I make these videos specifically is because I use this platform to talk about vulnerable people in America, and especially since this administration is almost basically gutting um, healthcare, especially for vulnerable people like older people, people with dementia, disability, and a wide other variety of things. I chose to talk about things that just key points, just to let you know for if you have elderly loved ones that you need this series. It's probably going to be a five-part series, but this series is going to talk about if you have to take care of those people at home, the dementia, your elderly, people who are used to generally in a nursing home, and you can't afford to put them in nursing home. Because the administration basically take the healthcare system and you just can't afford it anymore. Or a wide variety of other things. Use this video for what's for you. If you can find this area and if you can find this video helpful for you in the area of where you're at, that's what it's for. But if it ain't for you, baby, keep on growing. You'll be alright. Now, one thing is, I have an uncle. He's my the last of he's my last uncle from my grandmother. I don't know if you know about me. He took me and my grandmother raised me. And as I see him, I see the last vestige of my grandmother. Um, so this piece here, the dementia series, he has dementia, and I see him progressing from what he was um, to what he is now is hurtful. Um, but talking it out with our family and making some strategic decision and been hard. Sometimes folk can be stuck in their ways and don't want to hear that, or they know wrong because you so-called a child and they don't want to hear you, or they raised you and you think you got a little bit 2 cents and you want to put that in. So I just said, let me sit back. I do give my opinion because that's my uncle. He need help. You need help more than your ego or what you think you should already know. But at the same time, people are sensitive about giving out their information because they may be embarrassed about it. They may not be addressing the issue that your loved one truly does have dementia. You think they're gonna live forever, but what's sitting in your face is not what was 5 days. I mean, it was 5 years ago, or even a year ago. His dementia is progressing to the point he barely knew who I was. So I did this series, and I'm gonna talk up today about things that we ain't handling in our own family. So to help me deal with and pinpoint some things that I need to talk about with them, or I need to talk about you with you. If it's helpful, hope it is. If it ain't, keep it moving. I want to do common concerns for patients with dementia. You know, dementia can be a tricky thing. Sometimes you think, oh man, oh boy, it's just talking like normal. Oh, he just having good days with bad. Oh no, he just having one of his episodes. No, it's not. Um, that's what dementia is. From a textbook standpoint, dementia is a progressive and profound disruption in brain function and intellectual capacity. The primary signs include problem with memory, language, spatial, temporal, reasoning, judgment, emotional, thought disorder, and personality. Dementia is subtle, can be subtle. Progressive loss of cognitive function with memory loss as its um, hallmark impairment, particularly uh, the loss of short-term memory, the ability to concentrate, make judgments, problem solve, and engage uh, in abstract thought and abstract processes can be impaired. Personality and mood swings. Just let me tell you something. Personality and mood swings. Because my uncle could be who he is, and sometimes he can start swinging on you. I don't know who you are, and they want everybody to laugh and joking, and his face will change, and he just started to sit there and stare. If you grab him, he may get a little confused, angry, or aggressive, or he may throw his a punch at you. So that's been hard. Now, recently, he's become more aggressive because he is not. He's not fighting. He's finding himself not knowing the people who are around him. He doesn't know those people anymore. And but um, One key things is that personality and mood swings can be hurtful because first they can be sit there and talking to you like they know you, and all of a sudden they don't know you and they become aggressive with you. Can be hurtful. I seen this. I observed this during Christmas. Uncle was just sitting there talking with us like normal. Then he went to he became he just started to sit there and quietly. When I went to grab him and they were put their own just grab him as he used to, or hey, grab his hand. Kitchen, you don't touch me, leave me alone. And I thought, and the person who did that, and thought, because that was their grandfather. I saw their face, and it was a little bit hurtful because they were just being the normal. It was the normal play that they've done for years, for more than 20 or 30 years. Their child has been alive, and now they can't relate to that uh, parent like that. The type of intimacy, the type of joking, the type of type of play fighting they used to do when they were a kid, or even being a teenager. That's what they used to do with their grandfather. Now they can't do that anymore. And I can say, and one of the key things that I noticed, uh, especially with my uncle and others in dementia, you cannot relate to your family members like you used to, especially if you're in intimacy areas. You want them to feel love. You want to hug them, play with them, and all this different stuff. But remember, these people are progressively changing. They don't remember you. Um, they've gotten to the point where they started to. I know my uncle just start. Somebody walked up from a hug him, and he grabbed back, he ran his head back and said, "I don't know you." And anybody knows somebody walk up to you to start hugging, kissing you, I don't know, you gonna start swinging on it, man. You just get off me. And that's one of the things with dementia. And that's one of the hardest things with dementia. And it's important for older people to feel loved and cared for. Um, and that's the way you used to love them, care for them. Walk up, hug them, kiss on them, play with them. My uncle has a has a bald head, so sometimes sometimes you snatch his hat off and rub his bald head and say, "Oh, hey man, what happened? What happened to all that?" And you can't do that anymore because um, that person is not there anymore. The person that you used to laugh at, so you have to reestablish a way of intimacy, reestablish a way of friendship, reestablish your connection to that person in an intimate way. Because as how we always play and joke after joke, and play fight. And I told him, my family member, I told him you can't hit him anymore. I said he doesn't know who you are. You have to introduce yourself to him and coax him back to where you want to be. Go when you meet him, say, "Hey, how are you? Do you know who I am?" and tell them, hey, I'm so and so, and you're my uncle. Because every time I meet my uncle, I say, hey, do you know who I am? He said, no. You know who I am? I said, you are my uncle, and I love you. And he always opens his arms up and hug me. And that's where it starts. He may not remember me. I remember him, and I tell him who he is to me, and I hug him. You have to reestablish, especially when you have to reestablish things, especially if you have a patient who is elderly, and have dementia. Um, the romantic connections, the physical touch, the different things they will change. How they like to be physically. Say, well, Uncle, he says himself so old and mean. Sometimes he wants, don't put your hands on him. No, don't put your hands on me. And some days he's laughing, he wants you to come over and hug his neck. So it's hard. Sometimes you have to go with the flow and go with the seasons. So individuals, I encourage you to spend more time focusing on what that person's life is like. When you come in, you introduce yourself and you give them a hug. The first time, every and human beings love the touch of a hug. Well, mostly. Introduce yourself, and especially we're talking about intimacy and the problems and how you have to reconnect with that person. This is you're talking about dementia and what are problems with dementia, some of the concerns you have, and one of them is intimacy. So what we're going to do what are we going to do to make a new intimate connection? First, introduce yourself. Tell that person you love them. Tell them who they are to you. You go over them and you hug them, hold their hand for a while. You hug them, hold your hand for a while. Sometimes I massage my uncle's bald head. I say, come on, get old. I felt like, put some music on. Come on, shake a tail feather because he loves Gladys Knight. So we said, oh, what? He said, well, I don't know if I don't, can't dance. I don't know if I want to dance. But he said, I might get up there and shake all my feathers off. But God bless you. We laugh, and then we go on with our visit. But I know it's hard to see the change in your loved ones as they progressively don't know you anymore. Um, and oftentimes they just sit there. Um, but the next thing I wanted you to notice, and wanting another concern, were you having and this again, we're talking about common concerns for patients with dementia. The next thing we wanted to talk about is, it, basically wondering. Wondering is sometimes it's inevitable, especially at sundown. They get a little bit confused um, because it's getting dark, and they may not see as well. Uh, they may not, it's just getting dark, and you may not see as well. It's a time and changing time of it's a time of changing over and transition that they may be confused with. So you are going to have problems with wondering, um, and what the wonder behavior um, is common among persons with dementia, especially at sundown. It, but it can be unintentionally dangerous. It's not like your elderly or dementia people can help that. Um, so you must be due diligence and making sure you, first of all, I don't want to say tag them, but have an identification that they can't break. Identification breaks it that they can't break. Don't have to alarm your neighbors that you do have an elderly parent or father, mother. Please stay on the lookout for them. Uh, basically, alert law enforcement if your local law enforcement that you do have a possible that you do have an elderly patient who wonders. And you may be able to, they may identify that person and give them their ID number and all that different stuff. but also make sure you lock the door. Lock the door in a manner they can't get out of. Just don't have one block, one bolt. You're gonna have a superficial lock, a deadbolt, and something else that they can't pull. So you're gonna have a two-step locking dead, two-step lock, uh, deadbolt, whatever. I don't know about locks, so you're gonna have to find that out by yourself, baby. I don't know about that. So I remember, I often see my uncle. If it's getting to certain times, he does start to wander back and forth from the kitchen to the living room, and because at this time is that my uncle only has one eye. Imagine yourself during the day. You wake up, everything is illuminated. You can see, but when it comes dark, he can barely see. He doesn't really know people around him, not knowing a person around you, and not trusting. You can become agitated and frightened, and you can start to wonder. um, because of this feeling, because you don't know where to be, and I don't want to say hiding, but you just trying to find somewhere that makes you feel comfortable and wondering. But also, aggression. Let's go ahead and say it. Individuals with dementia may become confused and agitated as they become more as they lose their ability, and um, as dementia becomes more, um, actually I want to say pronounced in their life, but it has become more and more devastating to the mind and mental states, the mind and mental ability. So what I can say at this point in time, be ready for that. Um, offer gentle correction. Don't grab that person and start. You can't say no. Remind them who you are, and no, you cannot do that. When agitation is frequent, um, I can say that also offer gentle correction. Um, consistent, making a calming environment. Um, making put them in an area that they feel. Don't go jerking on them because it makes them more aggressive. I think you should put them in an area that they feel comfortable. Talk to them, soothe them, offer support, ask them do you want something? Do you need something? And then just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Let them sit there and leave them alone. If they're feeling aggressive and they're feeling some things, you offer the support, offer calming, but back out of the environment. You sit there and you make sure that they're safe. But if they're in a chair, and I found out like the other day, my uncle he just thought threw a punch at somebody, leave me alone. I said, just leave him alone. Just leave him alone for a second. He has to know, just know that you are there. So he got out of his face. Everybody started to do what they needed to do. I was reading, and then he'll come to you because we were still, everyone was still in the room. We just started listening to the music. Some people started reading their phones. Some people started, and then he just sat there for 30 minutes, and we started to talk to each other. And then he started to talk to us, and then he put his, he intervened. Well, I remember Sally, he used to, and then he came back to himself. So first of all, and I want to express this clearly to you, um, when the patient is aggressive, don't match their energy. Don't become aggressive with them because they have dementia. They're frightened. They don't know where they are. They don't know basically who you are. So first of all, introduce yourself. Hey, granddaddy, this is Sherry. I'm your grandchild. What's going on? All right, granddaddy, I know how you having your. All right, I'm gonna leave you alone. Forgive me, I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm gonna leave you alone. Sit up with make sure they're in a sitting chair, that it's okay, that they won't fall. You make sure that my uncle has a recliner. He likes to sit in. That's his special chair. Nobody gonna take that chair from him. And you Let us sit there and you sit on the couch next and you just, turn the music on. If there's someone here, you just talk, talking casual. Like, just don't, just make it, doesn't make it like it's a big thing. You start talking casual here, and that person will come around and come to themselves. Or just sit there and just, be to themselves. There's nothing wrong with them sitting and being to themselves. But also, one of the worst things in the world that I want to address, and a couple of other things. But first of all, I want to go over um, also falls or falls because you know that they get people with dementia often start to, especially during out. We talk about when they start to wander back and forth and all that different stuff. The older adults, but especially people with dementia, older adults, you know, and they're open to injury. Because they have decreased mobility. Sometimes they're decreased mobility problems with the medication, disorientation that comes with the wandering, or um, and they're open to falls. And one thing that you can be geared towards to understanding is that you should try to keep your place decluttered. Make sure you have no rugs in the way. Um, Make sure that you're removing unstable furniture. Eliminate, just eliminate any cords that could be away. Make sure there is a clear lit path for you and your family members to move through, or the person with dementia or elderly person with dementia uh, to move through to make sure they can get to where they need to go, and that will decrease a lot of a lot of falls. But also too, if you have a person with a walker and you know you have all this clutter in the way, they're not going to be able to move and get to where they need to go. Come on now. Or you have a person with a cane on a cane, those rugs and all the boards and everything, we're going to throw them down, move them out the way. Um, Awesome too is that, so maybe if you have to practice balance training, um, you may need to go to physical therapy to practice balance. You need to go maybe find a new way to move. You may have to change the room. Maybe your room was upstairs, honey, and you may have to move it downstairs because you can't climb them stairs no more, and you know you're rickety tickety, so you're gonna fall down those stairs. So make sure you modify your life. Yeah, I'm sorry saying you're modifying your life around your disability, but you have to. Um, because I want to say disability, but the new coming challenges ahead. Even if you're eligible, you're gonna have to modify your life around your disability, and that's just or the changes of your body. That's just inevitable. Um, well, one of the key things, and also one of the key things, and what's one of the worst things in the world for me is that when people start to become and notice their dementia symptoms, they can become suicidal. Um, they can become very suicidal. Um, and some of the risk factors. As you become, remember, remind yourself. Say if you were a CEO of a company, and all of a sudden you start to see yourself losing who you are and who you used to be. Um, and some people find themselves they'd rather throw themselves off out of a building or out of a window, or take drugs, or just commit suicide than be that vulnerable because they don't feel that there's someone there who can take care of them. And I can understand that. Being a person who is all by myself, who don't have anyone, it's hard because you don't have anyone, for someone to take care of you, and people can treat you like crap. And said some people find themselves, they just want to end it all. The current risk factors for suicide in older adults is, the recent loss of a loved one. When you're older, or at least a recent loss of a loved one or companion, and you have dementia, or you're getting older, and you're like, some people say it's just I have no companion, I have nobody, and they end up committing suicide right after that person dies. Physical illness, uncomfortable pain, or uh, fear, um, fear of prolonged illness. I know that the elderly and dementia patients, well, elderly and dementia patients, they so oftentimes, you've been in pain so long, you've been physically ill so they can't take anymore, and they just want to just have it be done, and they commit suicide. I don't want it anymore. It's I don't want this burden anymore. I don't have anyone. I'm always in pain, always in fear of there will be no one there to help. But what happens to me? I won't be able to live, and they take their own life. Um, and even perceived poor health, social isolation and loneliness. Loneliness as an elderly patient who doesn't have one, especially after they lose their spouse and they're 84, they just feel that life is done for them. They've done everything, and it's time for them to go. And they can choose that period for them to go. hmm Especially, and also the retirement. A lot of people, as you get old, they want to retire, but they don't want. I remember my uncle, he telling me he didn't want to retire. Yes, he's afraid of getting what his mother. My grandmother died from dementia, with dementia, and he was afraid of that. So, but you know, he eventually retired, and he did get dementia, and he said that's one of the reasons he didn't want to stop working. Because he felt that he would get dementia, and he didn't want to die like that. His wife is great. My aunt is, I'm telling you, she is a trooper, but she's 80 herself. And an 80-year-old woman trying to take care of an 80-year-old man, that's hard. She's a caregiver. And she said she don't mind because, but it's too much on you. It's going to be, anyway. A dementia diagnosis encompasses several, a dementia diagnosis to some people even is a kiss of death, a loss of your health, your purpose, and your meaning must be addressed at all stages of aging. But what if you have dementia? People with dementia, like, when you feel like you're lost. When you don't have, it's something else. You want to say, okay, if I lose a body limb or whatever, but to lose your mind, you can never, you can't get prosthetic for that. You can't get anything else from that for that. So if you want to just say, I'm just going to end it all. And sometimes they don't do it on purpose. The suicide can come in just the form of not eating anymore, refusing to eat, isolating themselves, um, and sometimes, just rejecting medication that you know that they need, um, heart medication, blood pressure, that medication that's keeping them alive. They reject it. Mhm. And that is one of the signs that they're ready to give up. And it's hard because you want to take them in, you want to tell them you love them, but dementia and being elderly and dementia and having no could be a death sentence. So I want you to be focused. I want you to see this as a human being and see that if you had dementia, you had no one, and you felt you had no one, and your mind was failing you, what would you do? and put yourself in that shoe, that person's shoes, before you judge them. But also remember, remind them every day that you are here. You have to remember that with dementia that you are here. You go get them, you love on them, and you take the road. Your family, you're gonna have to take the road together. I don't know how the road will end. I don't know if some people just may. I just know that when you're with your family and you have family, you're walking that road together. Just tell them you're walking this road together. You're not alone. But oftentimes that may not be enough. So just watch, take care, and give it, and add the love and support you can for your family. But the last one we're gonna talk about, big boy, we're gonna talk about alcohol abuse. Now and I know sometimes our elderly family members like to take a little tip all the time and then, a little thing, like, "But maybe give me some of that, give me a bill too. Don't let me get some scotch or, my uncle used to like white lightning, you know. And I said, get a whole, let me drink a jar or two. I said, we don't need no jar. One of those, I said, you barely need a jar, and so, but that's not the way he was, but I'm just saying, I'm just adding this example, you know, um, because alcohol abuse in elderly can be hidden, you know, um, it can be hidden, and also to people elderly, oftentimes, healthcare professionals may miss it because they be like, alcohol abuse in elderly folks, please, honey. That's from for young folk. Elder folk don't do that. Yeah, yes, they do. I remember I had a patient, and I was doing I was an ER, and I was a student, and so at the time the lady came, elderly patient came in. We were talking about geriatrics, and the lady was full blown drunk, and this lady was in her 80s. And she said, "Well, I don't bet, no, I don't have a drinking problem. I only have wine time to time." Or you're drinking 2 bottles a day of wine just because I don't care how booze you make it, or what if you said just because you ain't drinking straight up whiskey or popping back a whole case of a beer, that don't mean you ain't an alcoholic, okay? Baby, I don't know, man, just because you sipping on just if you destroying 2 bottles of wine a day, baby, maybe you need to, you know what I'm saying, you need to go and get some help, baby. Just because I found myself saying, no, I only drink wine from this and wine from time. Hers was slightly expensive wine, so she felt that she wasn't at the drunk. But 2 bottles, come on, you know, actually, other people are, allowed to often hide, their alcohol abuse, and also too is that they oftentimes, self-medicate, you know. So, somebody, we all, well, I don't care what, if we, from 80 to, from 18 to 80, sometimes we drink our problems away. Sometimes we self-medicate with alcohol. Um, sometimes we become, in denial, but also too is that, and, the symptoms of alcohol disorder can mimic um, or resemble other conditions associated with aging. So you may miss the alcohol, this person is just drunk, or this person is, as an alcoholic, it may mimic alcoholism, alcohol abuse can, mimic dementia. They can mask other disorders as well. And so they can mask an underlying drinking you know, or substance abuse disorder. But as you age, in elderly people, their symptoms manifest differently, and sometimes in many symptoms, different things can manifest different. Like, when an elder person gets a UTI, sometimes they can go loopy or, get a little bit loopy. And so that's when okay, let's go see if they have a UTI and things like that. And so, and they find out, okay, you have a UTI. And that's some of the things similar to, oh my God, this person may have dementia, or grandma just may be drunk, doing a little bit too much tippling. Okay, so we're gonna have to go in to look at that. But oftentimes, older adults, maybe they just may be isolated, with minimum social contacts, and so they drink. You know, sometimes people are lonely and they drink, just like you, just like me. You sometimes you get lonely, and you drink. I mean, they're human beings. Um, you know, uh, you know, from what I understand is, being, you know, being alcoholic, is the second most frequently reason for being admitted as an older adult into a inpatient psychiatric facility, because you're like, this person has changed within 24 hours, or you find two bottles. Oh dang, grandma, shoot, she drunk. I'm going. He said, well, Grandma, we always, I mean, look at this all. She said, well, if you got a whole barrel of liquor bottle, of wine bottles, come on, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to ask some hard questions. Okay? All right? We're going to have to ask some hard questions. Um, you know, oftentimes, also something you may self-medicate physical problems, pain, older people can self-medicate, with difficult, because if you have difficulty sleeping or chronic pain, or, mourning a loved one, loss of social support, and loneliness, also, instigate alcoholism later on in life. Um, and I'm reading these facts from Net CE, Continue Education. Thank God, shout out to them. They've done a different special. I mean, I just curtailed it and added my little tweaks on it, but thank God for them uh, for giving me tidbits to make sure that I'm speaking clearly about the situation, but also clearly and confidently about the situation. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Um, I want to thank you guys for, if this is a video for you, I hope so. Um, but also one more thing, I want one more thing. One more thing, one more thing, one more thing. One thing is, when you have a dementia person who has dementia, be worried about don't get upset about their paranoia. So oftentimes they can be paranoid and suspicious. I think the other person gonna take me. I remember when I was getting my endoscope. It was a lady who was in dementia. She kept asking for her glasses. One time her glasses was on. She said, I don't want them to get lost and nobody take them. And she kept asking for her glasses and her glasses. She was paranoid. She was paranoid that someone was going to take them, fearful. Uh, she was fearful, delusion that something was going to take, that somebody was going to take something from her. Um, paranoid is a form of delusion, which, an individual is fearful, jealous, or suspicious of other people. You know, this is Um, this is a part of no. This is a part of dementia, and oftentimes you have to. I remember the nurse kept reminding, "Ma'am, I put your glasses right here. Look over there. I'll put your ma'am, your glasses are on your top of your head." And what happened? She was a very great nurse. She every time she never lost her temper. She She was helpful to redirect the individual. She redirected the individual to where the glasses were, where she kept them. No, and also tell the person that no, we're not going to take your glasses. I want you to put them right there where the individual could see them. And she said, "Ma'am, right here. You'll always be able to see." Okay, okay. And she asked it, I know, at least 6 times while I was sitting there. And I want to say, God bless, shout out to great nurses who hold their composure under bad situations. But also, too, is that being understanding that she has problems, she has dementia, and this is not her fault. and it must be treated with kindness, respect, and patience. And also, I want to, the last thing is that talk about spirituality. Um, all individuals, including those with dementia, have spiritual needs, and spiritual health as part of holistic care. Um, as much as possible, um, remain in your faith. But take include your loved one who with dementia or elderly into a faith-based community, um, or at home. You know, play spiritual music that is comforting to your loved one, um, and remind them of their faith. You can read to them out of the Bible, find Bible verses. And now you can have everything sing to you on YouTube. Your Bible verses could be sung to you on YouTube. Um, so they will speak the Bible to you just so they could always be reconnected and to be a source of peace for them. Also, too, is that, and also keep them connected with people who are members of a spiritual community who want to come see that person and say, I just want to spend, I remember so and so, remember so and so, I just want to come by and speak to them and see how they doing because that may be on my heart to do so. So I was, if as much as possible, keep your elderly and person with dementia engrossed in their spiritual journey as well. Don't take it from them because you think they may forget. No, keep them immersed in that journey, in that community, and with those people who want to explore, who want to be around God, explore God, talk about God, um, and be elevated in their spiritual walk or journey. So I said what I said. Hope this can help you. It may not. If it does, it does. If it don't, it don't. Peace out. Heavenly Help is about to rock out. Peace.